What we want to do is we want to start a nonprofit because we have our grant. I know, watch. Our county health department works 99%. That's an exaggeration on grant funds. We have hardly any county funds to run on. So we want to start a nonprofit for the county so people can donate and we can have money to operate. And I know LA County did it. So, how did you do that? You think I'm joking? I'm being dead serious, sir.
I'm laughing because I spent Tuesday afternoon with Dr. Weisberg.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Our old boss.
He met me at the airport.
Oh, okay.
He and Mariana. And I spent the whole afternoon and evening with them.
Nice. I loved Dr. Weisberg.
If you want to do something like that, you have to create a completely separate entity.
Correct. But you have to get board. Did you have to get your board's approval, like the board of supervisors' approval?
Yes, because what you're dealing with is their resources. In terms of their buildings and clinics, the tools you're going to use to do your private enterprise are their tools.
Right.
So you shouldn't really have any trouble convincing them to let you go semi-private.
Right.
Because what you're doing is relieving them of a financial burden. I'm hoping that you're going to raise enough
Oh, we will.
money in the private sector.
Anybody can make a salad.
See, there's no benefit to any private organization for supporting your public health services.
Right. We have so many people who have a philanthropic heart because they don't care enough to vote the right way.
Yeah.
So they feel bad later. There's so many foundations, they make way too much money, and I know for sure that we could get the funds in. We just don't know how to start. We don't know how to approach the board of supervisors, and we don't know how to convince Dr. Bob. So we have to get our director online first, and then he has to pitch it to the board of suits. So since you were once that gentleman, how could I convince you to let us have a nonprofit? I need all the answers right now. Just kidding.
No pressure.
No pressure.
That first have to convince me of your fundraising potential.
Done. You know what my answer is? Look at this face. This face right here. I'm just kidding. No, we have so I have a fully functional 501c3 that is under the county health umbrella.
Already?
And we bring in about $250,000 a year. But that's just
Peanuts.
but that's for injury prevention, focused on car seats alone, and I get $250,000 a year just in donations for that. And that's just me. There's people that are just as connected in other aspects. So,
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So that's
So
the
you're
easy part.
already pretty much well down the road in recruiting external resources.
Absolutely. And we just hired on a fluke. Our Office of Emergency Preparedness just hired a volunteer coordinator that also has fundraising experience through the Leukemia Foundation, and there's somebody else who has a lot of fundraising experience. So fundraising ability, I got that.
And
I'm making all
and
of
to do the fundraising ability, you've got to design programs that you can convince some group, either a new group or an existing organization, that that's part of their responsibility.
Okay. So you have to bring people in that will do the work for you, basically? Like,
No, what you have to do that too. You have to have fundraisers
Right.
if you're going to go that route. But beyond that, you've got to be able to convince existing organizations that what you want them to fund is part of their own agenda. So you don't really get to set your own agenda
right.
if you're going to do fundraising.
Okay, here's my other question. So, we, for my nonprofit, we have a board that runs our nonprofit. So, are we going to have a board? Does your nonprofit for LA County have a board that ran LA County's nonprofit organization and reported to the Board of Supervisors? Or how did you build the governance structure for the nonprofit? that funded the county health department.
Which nonprofit are you talking about in Los Angeles?
Didn't LA County have a nonprofit that funded their county health department? Maybe it was a
Not
different.
fully, no.
No, okay, but partially.
Yeah, we had
Okay.
funding from non-governmental organizations.
Non-governmental
But
organization.
we had to be able to define a program that fit into their agenda
Got it.
to get their support.
Okay. Okay.
We either had to define a part of the population that they were interested in helping, defining some problem, either a single problem or a group of problems in that particular population, and then get them to fund your efforts on behalf of that population.
Okay.
So you can't just go to them and say, you know, I'm a health department, we need some money, give us a grant.
Right.
You can,
So
go
we
to,
should.
you can go to Washington and do that.
Right. And they'll shut us down quick. Okay, so hold on. I had a question.
Actually, in my first 10 years in public health administration, most of my funds came from the federal government. Because at that time, John Lindsay was the mayor of New York City, and Lyndon Johnson was the president.
That is American history, sir.
It was. And Lyndon Johnson wanted to do a lot of good things for poor people and black people. So it was easy to go to Washington and define a problem and get funding. For example, when one of my responsibilities became running the health services in the Department of Corrections, one of the problems I had was nursing staffing of Rikers Island Prison. A lot of men didn't want their wives. At that time, all 99% of nurses were women. A lot of men didn't want their wives getting on that ferry and crossing the East River to Rikers Island every day to go nurse
Criminals.
felons.
Right.
So it was hard to staff the hospital. That was just at the time, this was the early 60s. It was just at the time when nurses training was moving out of the hospital into the university.
Oh.
See, up until about 1960, almost 100% of nurses were trained in hospitals, at the bedside. In about 1960, the American Nurses Association decided that nurses training should take place in the university.
Just since 1960?
Yeah.
That's not that long ago.
No.
Huh.
And so nurses training started moving out of the, and these were not university hospitals where the training was taking place. These were neighborhood general hospitals. But many of them, for example, where I interned and did my residency, we had a program in cooperation with a local high school where girls came to our hospital for vocational nurses training during the last 2 years of their high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that when they graduated from high school, they qualified to take the state exam for vocational nurses. Anyway, that was kind of the first step, moving nurses training from the bedside into the university. And at the time when I had this problem, which was a sudden problem, the Department of Corrections used to have their own health system, their own health facilities. And one day, the director of corrections, who had been a judge, called my boss, the head of the health department, and said, George, his name was George James, said, George, I don't know anything about health. I have all these health facilities. Why don't you take over my health services?
Just like that?
Just like that. And without any consideration of the resources to take that on, he gladly said yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure, no problem.